Hi Scorpio. This is your Leo season, August 2024 reading. All information to work with me one-on-one is below, as well as the extended version to this reading, which will be in the first link below. Just give it about 24 to 48 hours before it becomes available after this initial video. There will be an easier access to work with me website coming soon, but from now on there's a link tree, and my Instagram and Patreon. So all of those links will be below. New podcast will be out. I started a new series for those of you who are interested in getting to know like my view of life, like what I'm going through personally, how that may relate to you collectively. The segment has to do with a deeper dive philosophically, looking at the body parts and how it could be, you could be experiencing or even ponder upon the metaphysics of the body parts that correlate with the sign that we're currently in. So just a thought if you're curious. Yeah, let's get started. Look at this. The opposition. It's a very strong one this month, more than ever. Let me show you the cards first. Strength, Page of Cups, and the Three of Wands, Scorpio. I have notes for you too. But before we get into that, because this is already kind of going off some of the notes, but what will become apparent to you? So all the fixed signs I'm asking this month, and I'll ask next time I shuffle the cards, is like what it is about change that you resist so much. And I talked about it with Aquarius. And Leo's already going through it, so I didn't want to be like sarcastic with them. But this month is showing you where you've been, lack of a better word, lying to yourself. Like, Scorpio, where have you been lying to yourself? Where have you been showing yourself one thing and doing another? Where do you need to show yourself the strength of compassion and looking not for the same thing that you've currently been going over? There's a different solution. And this Leo season, I would highly recommend reflecting on prior summers and what that feels like for you. And like for those of you who are going through summer, of course, but Leo seasons, July into August, and what those look like for you, what they bring up for you, because there's something around this. And there's also a new moon coming up very soon. And then we'll have the full moon right before we enter Virgo season. And what you're beginning to see is where you may need some more support, where you may not realize that whatever you've been telling yourself, there may be a deeper desire there. Like there's something on the surface, and you're giving it the attention, but it's not hitting. It's not that. And what's funny about these cards is that they're both kind of looking down, and behind them there is only brightness of the sun and then the brightness of the star. I know it's not entirely easy for you not to be in control or know what you may feel about something. But Scorpio, what I'm going to suggest this month for you is to trust. Trust that what needs to come out and what needs to show itself to you will. You don't need to provoke it. You don't need to go looking for it. What you need to do, your own free will, is use this moon cycle as for your opening. Use it as a starting ground. Give yourself time to see, like, an experiment and see what comes full circle, what's been unconscious and then subconsciously coming out through maybe your emotions. Well, that's a lot of cards. Yeah, give yourself the opportunity, because when you do that, when you like, when any water sign or even fixed signs, honestly, when something's not working, it's so frustrating, perhaps for some of you, from what I've noticed, because like we've talked about many times before, once you change one thing, it's more apparent with you guys than ever that everything then starts to change, whether it's for better or for worse, like beginning to end or vice versa. That's what's been interestingly enough, even if it's better, there is still this holdup. Like, see, like, there's something that needs to happen. There's an opportunity. You're coming into another opening. Think of this moon cycle as your opening. This is your opportunity to strike. Does that mean you're actively, like, really going at it? No. What do I mean by that for you, the strategy is to take a step back and wait for the opportunity to come to you so quickly, because that will provoke an insight. That'll show you where and why the money has been slow, why you've been maybe self-sabotaging or going through a certain cycle with people, or wherever you indulge, whether it's with substance or food or codependency, with relationships, people, all of them, some of them, none of them. This will become more apparent to you, like what it was and what it is and what's been happening. And the thing is this Ace of Pentacles wants to meet you, and this is the way forward. It's these boundaries. It's this willingness to say, like, this needs to change. And if you don't like the way it's been progressing, find another way. Be creative. That's like when you're your best, is when, what's funny about you guys, what's funny about you guys is that you're always reaching, just like Sag, just like Capricorn. But there's a difference with you. You have acute skills, and those skills perhaps may need to be sharpened forever. That may be where your direction is. And if you can't utilize those or find a way to give or use, or and you don't have time, you need to create the time for it, because that's what's going to actually feed you. Because we're looking at more of like, what are your relationships now looking like? What is your relationship with desire? What have you been desiring, but it's like not adding up? What's been stopping you? What's been holding you back? What's been the lack, like what's been the disconnect, basically? And what's interesting is that when things start to move and that connection is made, have at it. But it will also start to heal the things that had stopped it in the first place. And I think that's what everyone's really learning, is like loving and healing of the heart is also activating what needs to be looked at and loved for what it is. And there's a part of you, a very authentic part of you, that deep down desires to give something to the world, and you're discovering it more now than ever, and you're discovering what's been holding you back from it, and even has become very unhealthy. And for some of you, it can even be that you have been, unfaithful. And this could be unfaithful in relationships. This can be unfaithful to yourself, right? Could be both. And no shade, but it's just noticing of like, what has provoked you to get there? Like where did this come from? Specifically for Scorpio risings, your 10th house of career. So we'll get more into like what it is about this and where we're going. And these videos may tend to get shorter and shorter because I'm noticing like that's the thing. So I'm doing my best to get my energy super concise. So if you're noticing a shortening of length, there's a reason for it, because I think what ends up happening, and I think this will relate to you, is that I, for some reason, need to overcheck. right? Maybe that's what it is. You just feel like you haven't got everything yet. You can't move on from this yet. You haven't calculated. You've crunched the numbers. You've tried this 100 times. You have, in many different ways. And it's okay that you don't know. Or if you've reached your limit, or you've reached your capacity, or you're like, okay, I know that if I move on here, other things will have to change, or if I progress. So there's something else that is being hidden because you haven't accepted that there's another way yet, perhaps. So once that starts happening and you have more of an acceptance, the energy, your mind can then be open to what maybe has been trying to get at your attention for some time, which is why it wants to come in so quick and why it may happen so quickly. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, what the fuck did I just remember? What did I just do? What did they just, like, what just happened? So there's something that happens, again, that provoking, to really help your stress levels, your mind. Like, this ultimately, what it really comes back to is like how it helps you feel less stressed, how it helps you feel calmed down, how it evens things out is that, you know, you don't have to be some type of way before you get somewhere. You know, when some people, like, this is very much interestingly how I find a theme throughout certain signs is like, you don't have to be a certain way before you receive what you're destined to receive. And weirdly enough, because you have such a power behind your psyche, you can almost delay, which ultimately could have things change course. That won't happen overnight. Things take a while to progress, which is why when you start to do something a year later, you see how much has changed, but it takes a whole year to make you realize it's not that far, but it's just far enough to kind of experiment, right? And if there's been some unfaithfulness or some things that come out, use this as your opportunity not to sway. If there's something that you've been, you know, kind of back and forth about, there's a black and white that comes out. There's something that begins to neutralize, and you realize that this is the way forward. This is the way to heal. That this action is going to heal this pattern that you're finding, the pattern that is apparent to you in your life, especially if it has to do with your ego and how you relate to the world. How you relate to the world, meaning the world at large, and like what you relate to and what you don't, or what you find comparison or polarity from, like whatever you consume or listen to or decide to invest your time in, down to your work, your relationships, how those intermingle, your intimate relationships, what that looks like. You know, do you have pets? Do you have family? You know, what does all of this look like, and what has it been surrounded by? And what's being brought to light that will help you in the long run, right? If there's someone trying to get your attention over and over again, be patient, right? We have the Page of the Knight and the Pentacles coming out. If this is an opportunity, this looks more like love. If love feels like it's wavering, your mind isn't super clear. So if it's a new person entering your life, be very patient for the progression of this. You'll know what you need to do by the end of it and what role they're playing in your life, whether it's just for a moment, a reason, season, or a lifetime. If you haven't heard it, that's a long time saying. Maybe this person's just for a season, and even down to a moment, right? Maybe there's just some seasoning in your life. And I'm not to diminish anybody, but that is like seasoning, and the herbs are like some of the most important parts of the flavoring. That's where people can go wrong with cooking, is like you gotta add the seasoning. That's the whole point. That's what makes everything amazing, and that's what keeps you healthy. Like, herbs are so important to your health. Anyway, but if you douse them in, you know, certain things all the time, and you don't leave space for the freshness, you know, that can get to be overindulgent or lethargic over time, or, you know, sluggish and slow things down, whatever. Anyway, so people are coming to your door if you're partnered, right? If you're partnered, so if you're single, be patient. If you're hesitant, trust yourself. Let it be what reveals to you what needs to be revealed to you, and what you need to see, even if it is, you know, just for the moment and not forever. And allow that to help progress your decisions moving forward, especially with the way you work, how you want to utilize your skills, how you engage with people, how you talk with people. This may all be taking some kind of shift right now, and especially in terms of what helps you. And you may be in the mode to communicate, but then there will be times where you'll need to take a pause. It's like starting to also learn about your energy even more, and through your ego and through what you've been holding back, you may need to take a beat and give yourself the opportunity to rest, especially towards the end of the season, not the month, but the season, but it is the month too. And to let also, Mercury and Virgo and the Virgo retrograde and Mercury retrograde and Virgo to also help you. Because it'll also show you there could be a change for Scorpio risings. Virgo would be in your 11th house, community, friends, social, how you're seen in the world in that way. And I think that's what you're also realizing, is that there is, whatever you've been held up about relationships or relating, and how that relates to your career and how you've been seen in the world and how you see yourself and how that connects or disconnects from each other. It's just becoming very clear to you now that there may need to be some changes. And maybe it's time to accept some things and know that it's okay that these things happen, because if you want to grow, this is a part of growth. That, maybe not everyone gets it at first. Maybe you need time to shift, and you can only engage so much and talk about so much. By the end of the month, yeah, great, but you're drawing a line. Leo season is asking, like, where are the lines? Where do you need to draw them? Like, where did they get to be a little overwhelming or blurred last month, in an important way to find out that how you're shaping yourself now. Especially that Leo, the strength card, is the first card, is like, this is where you need to get strong. This is where compassion also helps the strength. This is where ease also can help the strength. Notice that your strengths can become your weaknesses if you use them or overutilize them, because eventually if you overutilize one arm, it could break and get hurt. You can, start to have discomfort from one side to the other. So just notice and be aware of that. And that if you're offered an opportunity that doesn't feel right, to trust that. Or to find a way to be more creative. That's kind of what I'm getting to. Be creative with your solutions this month to everything. Like, let your mind maybe just wander a little bit more. Just let it relish. A lot for Scorpio risings, Cancer just went through your house of philosophy, and you're kind of like holding on to whatever has been floating in and out, but you have some decisions to make for some of you, and it'll start to shape you. And just know that it's looking good. It might be a little hard, there might be some attachment to let go of, but just know that you got this, and that you know you at the end of the day. Yeah. Let things reveal themselves through what you truly desire, what you're truly connecting to, especially in terms of your career, now that you have a moment. Take it. We're going to get right into the next part. Link is below, Scorpio. And we will see you next month.